Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Chris Williams. This is Massive Action Monday. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in today. Um, Part of what I wanted to do today is to be able to kind of share with you and talk with you about my journey this year alone and something that my wife and I decided to do, where we decided to kind of invest our time, energy, and efforts. And in doing so, it led us down the path to actually masterminds. And so I wanted to kind of give you some perspective on masterminds. I wanted to also kind of share some things that I've learned as a result of being a part of a mastermind. And in doing so, I hope that for those of you, if you've never been in a mastermind or kind of never knew what to kind of take from a mastermind, then hopefully this will help you because I wish these were things that like somebody would have, shared with me, talk with me about before I had gotten into a mastermind, and I used to hear about them all the time. But you hear things, and until you actually experience it for yourself, it's kind of hard for you to know what it may be. So I want to say thank you to those who have joined us live across multiple platforms. And so what I'm going to do right now is I want to kind of go through the definition of a mastermind. I'm actually reading this book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. It is a fascinating book as it relates to understanding, um, you know, becoming rich, understanding why that might be a thing that you may or may not pursue. Right? Totally up to you how you look at it and how you may pursue it. But um, there's a definition, and throughout the book, there's principles. Some of these things are will challenge your current norms and the way you think. Some of them are just things that you probably want to give some thought to and some credence to, right? So I'm gonna kind of walk through these thoughts, and I'll kind of give you my take on them. Okay, so in the book, one of the things that he does really well, which I guess I will say I was shocked by in a sense, is that he actually put together a really good case for abundance, right? So if some of you are open and some of you have built into your world, you're saying, listen, I know where I am today, but I know I deserve more. You probably will, if you want to shorten your time frame for achievement, you need to probably accept a few things. And when I say accept a few things, what I mean is that you're going to have to accept that the way you currently think right now is not serving the future you that you see yourself having. And I'm saying that's one of the truths that I learned about myself. One of the truths that I understood was that I had to read this book and go, wait a second. Out of all the words in this book, the thing that the book does not say that was a revelation to me was, Chris, there's a version of your future that your current mental model cannot support. And that was hard, right? So I'm telling you that, like, before I start talking about like what I've learned in the masterminds and the four takeaways and all that stuff, we got to have a foundation of understanding like what is a mastermind, right? Like, and why do they exist? Because I will tell you, some people have kind of popularized the idea of a mastermind, but I will also tell you that not all masterminds are created equal. Okay. I will say I am blessed. My wife and I are beyond blessed that the three that we've invested in have been actual genuine people who are actually trying to help, who have real receipts, who are saying, hey, listen, you can join here. Here's the information, and are willing to help you out. But there's a lot of misnomers about masterminds too, right? And so I want to kind of break some of that down in today's discussion. All right. So let's start with the definition of a mastermind, right? And if you stay on till the end, I'll kind of share share some other pieces with you. And so again, I'm reading this definition from the Science of Getting Rich, and I'm going to write this on the board. But I think this was just an awesome book, and you're going to chew on this book a lot. Again, read it at your own accountability measures and red pill, blue pill kind of thing, right? If you take it, just know it's going to change you, because I know it's changing me. So the book says, let's just define a mastermind for a second. A mastermind is defined as someone who acquires the power to think, health, and wealth when surrounded by appearances of disease and lack. All right. A mastermind is defined as someone who acquires the power to think, health, and wealth when surrounded by appearances of disease and lack. So a mastermind, just off the top, a mastermind, first of all, let's just break this down, is a person. And I want to stop there, because I want us to be open to the fact that you and I can become a mastermind. What that also tells me is there's a gradual progression to becoming a mastermind, right? So let's just talk about this. So here's a mastermind, okay? A mastermind, they acquire something. That means that they put the work in order to become this thing. What is it that they become? They acquire the power to think. Well, why would the power to think, why is this, why put emphasis here? Let me share with you just personally. I personally have been broke longer than I've been rich. Knowing that simple fact about my personal life, I would imagine there's other people who could state the same. I'm not saying that for sympathy, and I'm not saying that to belittle myself or you. I'm saying that there's a reason for it. And part of what I've learned in my own journey of life and the things that I am learning, as I'm acquiring my power to think, well, why don't you have the power to think when you first start? It's not that you don't have the power to think when you first start in life, when you're a baby. It's just that, unfortunately, there's a lot of social mechanisms that are built to suppress your power to think. So, and again, this is the way I see the world now after, again, red pill, blue pill, right? Take it for what it is. But I want us to be mindful of the fact that your and my ability to think has a lot to do with the social norms that we spend our time heavily invested in. So a mastermind is someone who's acquired the ability to think. Two key pivotal things in our entire lives. What are they? The two key pivotal things that we all need is health and wealth. Now, whether you are actively participating in increasing both of those, or whether you're actively decreasing your ability to obtain both of these, you're participating one way or the other every single day, all day, because you're alive. So either the stuff I read is helping me, either the things I put in my body is helping me, right? Either the people I hang around is helping me health-wise. The way I challenge myself might be, helping me, right? Again, this really comes down to understanding your personal health and your wealth investment and or subtractions, people, places, things, all of that stuff, right? So and I'm breaking this down for a reason, because when I start talking about the masterminds I'm in, I just want us to have a level foundation, and I'm sharing with you the way I'm seeing the world, right? So a mastermind is someone who acquires the power to think health and wealth when surrounded by, okay, we're going to surround this, when surrounded by appearances. Now, this is interesting because appearances, fear, false evidence appearing real, right? That's an acronym that a lot of people use for fear. I've used it plenty of times, right? But okay, so a mastermind is defined as someone who acquires the power to think health and wealth when surrounded by appearances of disease and lack. Now, it's surrounded by disease and lack. So this is going to be a easier to understand concept if you are starting to buy into your own ability to think. Okay? It's going to be difficult to understand if you're not really heavily, if you're not willing to change the narrative inside of your mind. If you're willing to change the narrative inside of your mind, and if you're willing to be open to another way of viewing health and wealth, if you're open to understanding that, you know what, if where I am right now is not enough for me, and I feel an urge that there should be more, that I should by default be willing to say, you know what, that means there's something probably up here that I got to change, right? That's kind of where we started with this idea of a mastermind being a person, okay? So it says the ability to acquire the power to think while surrounded by, the ability to acquire the power to think in the face of like the appearances, the ability to acquire the power to think health and wealth when surrounded by the appearances of disease and lack. Okay, so what am I learning in these masterminds when I look at this definition? What I realized is that this thing that is surrounding the actual thing I have and can obtain is really fueled by many, many systems and ideals and psychological triggers and all this other stuff. What do I mean? Well, if health and wealth is, or if disease and lack are the appearances, then health and wealth is really my ultimate goal. But if I'm heavily invested in the news, if I'm heavily invested in gossip, if I'm heavily invested in terrible thinking, like negative thinking, I just want us to think about like our daily routine, right? If you're on social media and the majority of the people you follow are negative, know more about other people's lives than their own, if the idea of having something to talk about is always someone else, right? Like I'm just saying, like we have to think in terms of how this might be impacting our overall life right now. So even though internally we may feel this thing where we're like, but I know I'm supposed to have health and wealth. Like I know that. I know I'm supposed to have better than what I have right now. I know I'm supposed to be able to take care of my family. I know I'm supposed to get, all that is due me. Like, okay, I get it, but you have to realize that it's surrounded by the things that you're invested in, and it's hard to break through if You're constantly talking about disease. And by the way, I'm not saying they're not real, so let's not do that. I'm not saying they're not real. I'm not saying that they're not there. I am saying that you have the power to think in a way that does not make disease and lack your norm. By the way, there's been studies that have even been done around the power of someone's thinking when they even get a diagnosis. Thought life. Like your ability to think, the power. This acquisition is probably the best acquisition you and I will ever work on in our lives. The ability to acquire the power to think, because unfortunately in certain societal norms and the way we've been taught, it does not always teach us to think for ourselves. It teaches us right and wrong, and typically by default someone else is right and we're wrong. So don't question, don't ask, don't think. Here, just do this. Okay? And so I'm saying you take that for what it is. You think through those things. But I want us to understand this is an appearance. It's false evidence appearing real. Is there disease in the world? Yes. Is there poverty? Yes. Does that mean it has to be you? No. Absolutely no. In fact, can we take it a step further? You and I have the power. There's so much power in the human thought life that we don't have to experience lack. What we can start doing is start to see the world the way Neo saw the world once his eyes were opened and go, wait a second. This may look like this, but it's actually not. Right? Now, are there certain things and principles that you just can't argue with? No. I'm sorry, you can't stop gravity. If you keep jumping up, you're going to come back down. That's a principle of the earth that we live on. My point is, but there are other principles that are governing your thought life, the way you think, and as a result, the things that you see. Right? So I'm saying those are things that we all got to work on. So I wanted to go through this first before I give you like the 4 pieces that I've learned, because I think it's important for us to realize that if you go into a mastermind with the expectations that your life is just going to radically change overnight, granted, it could, but the majority of what I've seen when people talk about a mastermind is they had an unrealistic expectation. And a lot of that comes with the fact that it might be our first time, or we didn't understand truly what it should be. We put more on the person who's running the mastermind than we put on ourselves in level of accountability. And all of those things kind of contribute. So let me show you the 4 things that I've learned in the masterminds that I'm a part of. So I'll just call this the 4 keys. And just before I do that, I'm going to tell you the 4 masterminds that I have found that are working best for me. All right. So the masterminds my wife and I are in. We're in one in real estate. We've just got one in business. And when I say business, meaning, and I'll kind of explain it because it'll go into some of the 4 keys, but this is basically like business overall, but then also just understanding a way of doing business, right? So I'll just say business overall, and there's a lot of depth to that, and I don't have time to get into that right now. I want to keep this video short, but and then the other one is specific industry. And the reason is because it made sense. It makes sense like why we should do that. So yes, real estate is a specific industry, but this one actually covers a large deal of like e-commerce and everything else, right? So it really helped us like see, wait a second, there's a lot more than we realized that we should be understanding and building with. All right, so there's that. Okay. So let me tell you the 4 keys that I've learned this year in being in a mastermind. This is one of the things that I noticed that a lot of people have been doing in these masterminds. They focus on what's working. And when I tell you there's a huge focus on what's working, I'm not kidding. Like there's entire sessions, breakout sessions, conversations, like you name it, it's all focused on what's working. Here's what they're not doing. They're not talking about what's not working. Now, is it referenced? Yes. Is there a discussion? Yeah, but what they're not doing is spending an absorbent amount of time on why it didn't work. I have realized that in a lot of these masterminds, these people are so focused on achievement and growth, and they have targeted goals, that what happens is as they look at their business and their world, they're really spending a lot of time on what's working, and they double down on what's working. If somebody spent $10,000 on ads and it's been working, when they get in that room in that conversation and everybody's like, wait a second, you did what with that much money? They're like, no, spend more. Like it's a thing. That's a real thing, right? So they double down on what's working and they spend very little time on what's not working. Here's the second thing that I have found that has been very eye-opening for me. They are willing to pay for speed. This concept took me probably a good couple of months to understand. One, just because I struggle with big numbers. I'm sorry, I don't anymore. I struggled with numbers just because it wasn't something that I was always around. I just wasn't. So to hear the numbers that people would talk about like it's $1 and they're talking hundreds of thousands, it was like I was more stuck on the number than I was on what they were having a conversation about, if that makes sense, right? So I had to understand, I had to first get over that. But then as I got over that, the thing that I was drawn to was the fact that they were willing to pay for speed. What does pay for speed mean? Pay for speed just simply means if you meet somebody in the mastermind and that person does X, that is your problem in your business, I'll just pay that person to solve X problem. And I hear this said all the time. And I'm just going to write this down because they are not kidding when they say this. No matter what it costs. I heard that said so many times in masterminds, it's ridiculous. And at first I was trying to understand, like, really, like, why would they say that? Like, why do they keep saying, I'm willing to pay for speed no matter what it costs? And there's a reason for it. The reason is because if you got a bike, right? Let's say you got a bike and you're putting Samantha's bike together. It's her first bike. You got the bike in the mail. You ordered it off of Amazon or wherever, right? And you got the bike in the mail, but it came all in parts. Y'all might remember, a lot of bikes come like that. It's like all in parts. But now it's your time to put the bike together. Some of us would spend more hours fumbling through and following the instruction manual. And not saying that the instruction manual doesn't work well, but that's pretty slow. It could take a week or more. And little Samantha is standing around going, Mommy, Daddy, is my bike ready yet? Can I ride yet? Can I ride yet? Can I ride yet? And at some point you would say, okay, this is ridiculous. I am messing up. I obviously clearly don't know how to put together a bike. Let me go find somebody who knows how to do this, and that's their expertise. So what do? You take all the bike parts down to a bike shop. And the bike shop tells you, hey, you know what? Yeah, we could put together Samantha's bike. It'll only take us about an hour. I know it's taking you about 2 weeks. I'm sorry for that. But you know what? We've been here. We can help you out. It'll only take us about an hour, but it'll cost you about $400. Now, some people may look at that and go, I'm not going to pay somebody $400 to put together a bicycle. I'm sorry. I'm just going to tell you right now, anytime you found yourself saying something like that, that's called ego. And I will admit that I don't know how much money in my life already my ego has cost me. But I would ask you to challenge yourself, how much has ego cost you? I'm not saying we're incapable of learning. I'm saying in masterminds that we're a part of, they're serious about this. They will pay for speed no matter what it costs. So you pay the bicycle shop $400 for 1 hour to put together that bike, and now she can ride for life. But some of us will hear the cost of something, walk away, and try to still do it on our own and waste time, money, energy, and effort, create frustrations in our family, our friends, and disappoint little Samantha when you could have just paid for it to get the bike put together. Or you could go to a store where the bike is already put together and just buy the bike. But we'll complain about the price of the bike instead of going, wait a second. I thought the whole goal was so that Samantha could ride. Well, if you're willing to pay for speed no matter what it costs, I'll pay that $1,000 for that bike. Because the whole goal is so that Samantha can ride. And that's the way I realized, in business, I had to become that person. If you don't know how to do something, first of all, admit it, but don't let your ego get in the way, because you'll waste a lot of valuable time of which you can't get back. When if you met somebody in the mastermind who does the thing that you don't know how to do, why don't you just pay them to do that? You know what I mean? Just pay them to do that. So there's that. Okay. All right. Next one. People focus on what they pay for. Number 3, they are always collaborating. I've seen some of the most incredible collaborations this year than I've seen in quite some time. It's one thing when we watch our favorite sports teams collaborate to get a win, but we're not close to them. We're not connected to that journey. You're connected because they have a lot of media and all that stuff, but I'm saying you can't walk up and knock on Patrick Mahomes' door. You know what I mean? You don't have access to Tom Brady's, meetings and conversations and workout. That's not a thing, right? You don't have any, connection to him in that regard. I realized that in masterminds, that we're in, people are always collaborating. And it's because it goes back to this. Listen, if the goal is to make money, if the goal is to build a better impact, if your goal is to get your business off the ground and create reoccurring revenue, whatever it is, whatever your goal is, that's fine. But I think sometimes what we don't think about is, wait a second. What are some of the false beliefs that I'm operating under that's causing me not to be willing to pay for speed, not collaborating? And some of that is just these ideals that, I'm a self-made person. Nobody's self-made. Were you born by yourself, or did it take 2 people to come together to make you a human? So I'm just saying, I think sometimes we have to unpack these narratives that we've created, because unfortunately those are things that we've We've allowed in. All right. The last one, which is really important, I want to talk about the value of the mastermind, because this is probably even more important. The value of the mastermind is not in the cost. It's not in the cost. It's actually in the level of people. And I'm going to tell you why the level of people will outweigh the cost tenfold. There's one of, so our business coach, our business coach Myron is a pivotal chapter in my life for me. And by that I mean, I've never run across somebody who thinks the way he does, who puts things together the way he does, the speed at which he looks at stuff, the way he looks at life. Like this, he's got this lens on stuff that's just, it's fascinating to me, right? The people he surrounded himself with, the way he goes about, running and scheduling his life, the things that he's into, like I'm fascinated by it, but he's not really, he's fascinating, don't get me wrong. But what's more fascinating is his ability to find high level business owners, and they all want to be wherever he is. They all want to be a part of the room. They all want to, like, he can say, hey, we got a meeting coming up here in person. They swarm to it. It's amazing to me, because they have the same revelation I do. Like, wait a second, it's not about him. It's about what's going to happen in the room while we're having these discussions. So it's really this level of people. That's the value of the mastermind. What it costs is what it costs. What's possible after, you couldn't pay for. You can't pay for that stuff. I mean, I'm in a room where 3 people came together as a collaboration and they did $6 million in one day. I don't know, like, what, all because they were willing to collaborate, change their mindset, get in the room, be able to I'm saying for all of us, I think we got some work to do. I'm just going to go back here. I think we got some work to do around understanding what a real mastermind is. I would say our 3 masterminds, yes, they cost us over $100,000, but I'm going to tell you right now, this right here, this is worth its weight in gold. And I don't even have time to like really deep dive into all of these, but I want you and I to understand that, like, these 4 they're changing something, and I can't wait to look back on this video a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Because I know I'm going to be able to point back to being in these rooms. I know I'm going to be able to point back and say, yep, because I met this person, these things happened, and this pushed this here, which added this, and this impact was a result. And I'm just telling you, like, if you're not willing to get past what something financially costs you, here's the way I would look at it. So, I can't remember what the real estate one cost. Let's just call this $10K, maybe. I could be wrong. This one is 50. This one is another 25. I think this one might be 20. I can't remember. This one is 55. So anyway, the whole point is, that investment is what it costs. But here's the thing I keep thinking about. Man, what is it costing me over my lifetime by not learning these things that I've learned in these rooms, by not meeting these people. See, I think a lot of times we look at upfront costs. What's the long-term cost of you not doing something? What's the long-term cost? Let's just go back. What's the long-term cost of you not taking care of your health? What's the long-term cost of you not thinking about your wealth? What's the long-term cost of ignoring the signs that your body is giving you? What's the long-term cost of not being patient? What's the long-term cost of not learning how to communicate? My point is, like, yes, there's financial cost to that, but then there's also relationship costs. There's lifestyle. There's a lot of things, y'all, that by not doing something, it far outweighs what it costs you up front. Right? Perfect example, people say, oh, electric cars are expensive. So, I got a Tesla. Okay, fine. People, oh, that costs a lot. What about the long-term cost of you not having an electric vehicle? You like paying them gas prices every day? Inspections, engine problems, tires, brakes, all of that. I'm just saying, I think sometimes we gotta unlearn some stuff and challenge our current way of thinking. That's all. And if you're willing to do that, like if you're willing to do that, then this definition of a mastermind can be yours. And you can own being a mastermind. So on today's Massive Action Monday, here's your homework. This is your homework for this week. All right? Your homework is, honestly, first of all, I would tell everybody, please read this book, The Science of Getting Rich. Go read it. Go read it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I need you to ask yourself this question. Do you currently have the power to think? Have you acquired that ability yet? Or is what you currently think given to you by someone or something else right now? It's just a question. Ask yourself that question. And then ask yourself, if you have the power to think, are you struggling with the appearance of disease and lack, even though you know health and wealth are yours to be obtained? So this week, I want you to challenge your current norms up here in the way you think about health and wealth, the way you think about what a mastermind is, the way you think about being involved in communities of higher level conversations. I am thankful that I am being stretched over the last year and a half to be in rooms where I feel like I cannot contribute. I was having this conversation with my wife. I feel like these people are so freaking good at what they do. All I can do sometimes is just shut up and listen, because I don't know what they know. And I ask a ton of questions. That's what I do. One day I'm going to be there. For right now, it's learning. It's been I would say more unlearning and a lot of demolition in my mind about the way I saw certain things about life. But I will tell you that it's a lot of shut up and listen when I walk in these rooms, because I don't know what I don't know. And I've been willing to admit that. So go do the homework this week. I want you to really sit down with this definition of a mastermind. And I want you to ask yourself, do I possess this yet? The power to think. And I'm just going to read this definition one more time. Someone who acquires the power to think, health and wealth when surrounded by appearances of disease and lack. Do you really feel like you're a mastermind? Be honest with yourself. Write it down. Talk to your friends. Talk to your circle of people that you do business with. People that you really care about. People that you look up to. Have that discussion. And then this week, I want you to start asking yourself, what do I have to let go of that I've been holding so tight to that might actually be impeding where I want to go in the future? Write that down. Those might be very hard internal conversations. You might need to talk to your spouse about that. You might need to be open to the fact that, you know what, I haven't gone here with myself, because maybe there's some skeletons back there that I don't want to learn. I'm just saying, have an honest conversation with yourself. I know I am. And these are the things that I've been learning. So thank you guys so much for watching. It's Massive Action Monday. Thank you for being here. Listen, if you enjoy this type of information every single Monday, we will be live. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, wherever, right? Wherever you get your ear hustle on. If you want to watch also on YouTube, you can subscribe. Subscribe to the channel, man. I'm here to help you increase your impact, the income inside of the marketplace. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great, incredible day. We'll catch you in the next one.